Have you ever felt disconnected from your higher self, from that intuitive guidance and that inner wisdom? I'm here to tell you that it's pretty normal to experience this from time to time on the spiritual journey. There are times where I, feel disconnected from my higher self, almost as if my higher self's abandoned me. Like, where are you? The higher self doesn't abandon you though. There are certain things that can cut off this divine guidance. And so I wanted to make a video on different things that cuts off the divine guidance, and I'm going to share some tips for how you can reconnect to your higher self as well. So starting with number one, the first thing that will cut you off from divine guidance is stress. Now this is because stress activates your fight or flight response, also known as the sympathetic nervous system. And this is when you're operating in survival mode. And when you're in that state, you're focused on problems, not possibilities. And this is what cuts you off from your intuitive guidance and that inner wisdom. Now, it's also because of the ego mind. It's really the ego, like operating from the ego, is what cuts you off from your higher self and that divine guidance. And so when you're stressed and you're operating in survival mode, you're operating from the ego mind, because the ego's job is to keep you safe and to survive. And so it's really about moving past the ego, or moving out of the ego. Now, the second thing that will cut you off from divine guidance is overthinking. The higher self communicates in stillness, presence, and subtle nudges, not through spiraling thoughts. When you have those spiraling thoughts and the mind is noisy, it drowns out your higher self. Now, overthinking can also be linked to stress. So when you're stressed and you've activated the fight or flight response, you're in survival mode, this can cause your brain to go into high beta brain waves. And this is what basically causes the overthinking. It can cause you to have those scattered thoughts. Have you ever noticed when you're stressed, you can't think properly because your thoughts are real scattery, or they're just going 100 miles an hour? And so it's really about, moving out of that stress so you can get out of the overthinking as well. And I will share tips on how to do this. Now, the third thing that will cut you off is rushing or multitasking. Rushing or multitasking pulls you into time pressure rather than divine timing. And I kind of think, like, my opinion on this is the system that's been set up is what's causing us to be, in this state of rushing and multitasking, or doing all the time. We have jobs we've got to get to work and earn money to pay our bills. And then a lot of people, as well as their jobs, they have kids to look after, to pick up from school. And then, there's housework. So we're always just doing, rush. And I don't believe we're supposed to be living that way, because we're not human doings. We're human beings. And we should just be. We shouldn't be doing so much all the time. And that's why I think the system is set up to kind of like fail us. We shouldn't be living the way that we're living. And so sometimes it's about just slowing down and just being, not rushing. And then you'll get that connection back. Now, the fourth thing that will cut you off from divine guidance is neglecting rest and joy. Your higher self thrives when you're nourished, not depleted. And so prioritizing rest and joy is really important. But it's also, I find it, it can be easy to neglect these things because of what I was just talking about, how we're always rushing, multitasking, we have so much to be doing, that it can be easy to not give ourselves that time to rest or to have some joy. And so I would like to invite you to make time for that, realizing it's important. You're allowed to rest without feeling guilty. and to bring more joy into your life, more play, more fun, and more creativity, because these things will help you to get connected to your higher self. Now, number 5, the 5th thing that cuts you off from divine guidance is overconsumption. Overconsuming things like the news, social media, negativity, junk food. These things deplete you. It puts you in a low vibrational state. It can cause you to be in your ego. You know, for example, if you're watching the news and there's all these fearful things going on in the world, it's going to activate your ego mind, because the ego's job is to keep you safe. And again, it's the ego that's really cutting us off. So limit your exposure to these things. Like, I don't watch the news. I don't feel I need to watch it. Like, it's mostly negative information that's going into our consciousness, that's putting us in a state of fear. Like, it doesn't help anything, right? And the same with social media. Like, it's really not good for our brains. We get all these cheap dopamine hits. It overstimulates us, which leads us to feeling unhappy, low vibe, depleted. So I recommend, being mindful of how much time you spend on social media, limiting junk food. If you put too much bad foods into your body, it causes you to be in those low vibrations, which cuts you off from this higher divine guidance and connection. So yeah, be very mindful with what you're consuming, what you're allowing into your consciousness. Now, number 6, the 6th thing that cuts you off is disconnection from nature or your body. The city is very busy. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of sounds like traffic sounds, police sirens, ambulance sirens, lawnmowers, leaf blowers. There's all these signs and billboards everywhere telling us to buy things. And what happens is it's a lot of sensory information that ends up overstimulating us, and then this causes us to feel stressed. So it's really good for us to have a break from that city life. And the key to actually, connecting to your higher self is being in the body. So if you're disconnected from the body, you're cut off from that divine guidance. And so you can move your awareness around your body, right? And the problem is a lot of people's awareness is sitting up here, operating from that ego mind. And again, that's what's going to cause you to be cut off. So it's about shifting your awareness out of the ego mind and into the body in order to make that connection. Now, number 7, the last one, is living on autopilot. Now, humans are habitual creatures that spend most of their time running off these subconscious autopilot programs. And so if you don't make time for conscious presence in your life, you're going to naturally be disconnected. And so when you're just operating on autopilot, it's kind of robotic. Like, we're not robots, but it is kind of robotic, where we just do the same routine every day. And you're not really consciously aware. So when you're on autopilot, this is when the body's in control. The body just gets up and does what it's been trained to do. And so it's about making time for that conscious presence so that you can get out of these autopilot programs in order to make that connection. Now, if you're feeling disconnected, take it as a signal that you need to slow down, turn inward, and realign. Now I'm going to share 3 tips for how you can get connected to your higher self so you can start receiving that intuitive guidance. The first tip I have is to slow down with deep, conscious breathing. So when we're stressed, overthinking, rushing, this is when our mind is going fast, the nervous system is activated. So it's about slowing the mind and nervous system down. And the way you do this is just deep, conscious breathing. So breathing in through the nose and breathing into the belly. You want to do a deep breath in, and then you want to exhale the air, pushing it out of the mouth. And you want the exhale to be longer than the inhale. And so just start taking some deep belly breaths in and out, slowing your brain down, slowing the nervous system down, which can also bring you into that present moment. And the key is being in the present moment when, receiving divine guidance. So that's a great tip to apply. I would even recommend, because humans are habitual creatures, I would recommend creating this habit of deep conscious breathing daily, of, consciously slowing your brain and nervous system down. It's not just for a higher self connection, but also for your health. It's not good for us, for our health, to be operating like that. Rush, 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 stress, stress, stress. This causes disease and illness in the body. Now, the second tip I have is go for a walk in nature. Nature has this calming, grounding energy. It brings you into the present moment, which dissolves the ego. And when the ego's dissolved, that's when the higher self is able to come through. I have found when, I've been stressed, especially with building a business, man, there's so much to learn. I always have so much on my plate. So many things to do, so many things to learn. And sometimes it can make me feel a little stressed, like I just feel like it's just too much multitasking. And so I'll just go for a walk in nature. And I always come back feeling so much better, feeling grounded. And I'll literally, I'll connect with my higher self, and I'll literally be going for a walk in nature, having this conversation with my higher self, because you can talk to it back and forth. As crazy as it may sound to some people, I don't talk out loud to it though. I'm talking in my mind, but I'll, be talking about some sort of problem or feeling stressed about business or whatever it may be as I'm going for that walk in nature. And then the higher self will start coming through and just talking back to me. And then I'll the conversation just will go back and forth. And then I'm able to receive, intuitive guidance or wisdom to do with the business stuff that will make me just feel better and get me out of that feeling of stress. And so, it's a simple thing to do, just going for a walk in nature. So again, I would recommend incorporating this habit, creating the habit of going into nature every week, especially because of what I was saying before about the city being so busy and overstimulating us. And also, nature is spirit. Spirit is nature. The best place to go to connect to spirit is nature, not a church. Sorry if you're religious, but churches, people say go to church to connect to God. And it's like, nope, not a man-made building. Go to nature. Now, the third tip I have is journal out your thoughts. Now, this is really great if you're experiencing overthinking. So what I recommend you do is just get pen and paper and just start writing out all your thoughts, putting them on paper, because it's a way of dumping it out of your mind and onto paper. It helps to kind of just clear it out. You can also channel inner wisdom or channel, intuitive guidance from your higher self in a journaling session. So the journaling session may start out as you just writing out your spiraling thoughts, whatever's going on in the mind. And then once you sort of cleared that out, you could just get into this channel state and actually start channeling higher information that will help you. So I highly recommend to do that if you're feeling stressed, overthinking, need to slow down, need to get these thoughts out of your mind. I've walked away from journaling sessions feeling like I've just had a therapy session. And the cool thing about it is it's free. All you need is a pen and paper. So those are my 3 tips for getting reconnected to your higher self. And again, I just want to make that point that it's really just about getting out of that ego mind. It's the ego the ego's just too loud that it just drowns out the higher self. So those tips will help you to move out of the ego. Now, if you like this content or got value or think others would get value, hit the like button or write a comment. And if you like this sort of content, you like me, the Kiwi chick from New Zealand, then make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification. I'll also leave a follow-up video here if you want to learn more about getting reconnected to your higher self. Check that video out and have an awesome day. Peace.